One thing that's guaranteed in life,
100%.
we are all dying.
Yep.
And it's what legacy are you going to leave behind for your loved ones? This industry is archaic, unfortunately. And so I think there's so much opportunity right now. There's really not many female owners in the industry. I took the commission-only job and thought, I'm just going to grind now where I'm making no money and it will pay off later.
I don't need to find a comfortable job. I need to find one that has a lot of upside. If you want to have a family and you want to have the opportunity to make a lot of money and you want to have the flexibility, it provides all of it.
All of it.
You're about to see a podcast with Nicole Rex from Watermark Life. And as you watch the podcast, we don't do a great job of giving it context. So Nicole and Watermark are what we would call wholesalers for the life insurance industry. They assist retail agents like myself at Greyhawk with getting policies taken care of, making sure they're done properly, quoting them for us. Just know that they're an insurance wholesaler and they're the best at what they do. Well, everyone, welcome to the Risky Assets Podcast here for episode 3 with our good friend Nicole Rex from Watermark Life. Yeah, we're excited to have you. First.
Excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, first for a bunch of us. First female.
Oh,
you know, it's a big deal, especially in insurance, or it's a big deal you don't see often. And we're excited to have you. And just kind of wanted to start off with maybe your background. Like, how did you get to a place where you're running an insurance agency? Like, tell us the backstory of that.
It's a long, long road.
I want to hear it.
All right.
Let's do it.
So, graduated San Diego State, moved back home, took a job for a hedge fund out in Century City. Loved working in the financial industry, but really didn't understand what the heck I was doing.
So
hedge
fund, though, like, did you actually do the financial services for hedge fund?
I didn't. I was an executive assistant and their conference planner.
Okay.
So I was planning a conference in New York once a year and one in Las Vegas, and basically bringing investors and banks to these two cities to kind of meet each other. And so loved seeing all the money transactions taking place.
Sure.
That was very exciting for me. And then unfortunately, 2008 hit and the market crashed and I lost my job. So I ended up talking to one of my father's best friends who is also in this industry, the insurance industry. And he talked me into getting licensed and eventually got licensed and went to work for him. So loved working for his company. It was a great experience, but decided along the way that, hey, I think I want to do this on my own. And why not? Because there's really no other female owners of BGAs in the industry.
So rare.
There's a few of us. There's not too many, though.
Were you selling life insurance for him?
I was actually recruiting other insurance agents and agencies, so wholesaling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And how long did you work for him for?
About a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Okay, so you went from a year and a half in the insurance game to saying, okay, now I can do it.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
I mean,
No,
like, it took us on the PNC side, like, for me, 5 years to feel comfortable enough to be like, all right, I could do this on my own.
Right.
What do you feel like it was the training, or did you just feel like I'm just going to figure it out as I go?
I think that I just felt the confidence in the relationships that I was building to where it's like, okay, I think I've got this down. I'm going to give it a go. And so on the flip side, I had my brother-in-law who was working for a competitive agency at the time. His name's Neil. And so Neil and I were having family dinners once a week, at least together. And so he started kind of buzzing in my ear a little bit. Hey, you want to... Okay,
so he was pushing you.
He was looking to leave where he was at. Likewise, I was enthralled with the money he was making, and I was kind of, okay, this is interesting, right? So long story short, we decided, okay, let's start Watermark together. And so we did that in 2011 at the very end of the year, and my husband's job relocated us to San Diego. So I started the company remotely from San Diego. Our office was still in Westlake Village at the time. And so out of a second bedroom in a high rise in San Diego, looking over Petco Park is where I started the company.
That's so fun. Yeah. So just the two of you to start? Did you have any employees?
No, at that point in time, it was just the two of us.
Okay, so just you two. And then fast forward today, how many people?
There's 17 of us now.
That's fantastic. So, that's phenomenal. We were working with another wholesaler and maybe not having the success that we really wanted to. Yeah. And as we reached out and we were looking for a better partnership, we ended up finding you guys. So for people watching, what do you do for agents like us in general?
We try to really pour in a ton of education to you guys and help you guys get your businesses off the ground and started. You guys are expected to do so much on the day-to-day, right? It's nearly impossible for you to be successful and handle all of those different facets of your business, right? So you're either really good at sales, you're really good at running the business, you name it. So our job is to fill in what isn't your strongest point, right? And so that's what we do. I think best is we've noticed, okay, each agent and agency is so different too. So with you guys, it might be the marketing support, right? For another agent, it might be the education and just bringing sales ideas to them or whatnot. So I think that's where we differ from many of our competitors, is that we truly like to ingrain ourselves into our agents and our agencies' businesses and really truly understand what you guys do best and then fill in where you guys aren't doing the best.
So we've seen it just from our conversations and like experiences with you guys. I mean, we haven't experienced a integration from an outside company into our company as like deeply as you have, right? As far as Watermark, because you guys said, okay, what are you not good at? And let us just do it for you.
Right.
So I say babysitting, but you guys really become the rest of our team and have really helped us do what we do well, which is more sales, right? Like we're better in front of people, but doing all the illustrations and all the other stuff, I'm not the guy for that. Like it's just not ideal for someone like me. So we've seen the support and it's been fantastic for us. I think one of the questions tying into that for us is like, okay, female ownership.
Yeah.
How many of that you know, right? You said it's a small group.
I want to say there's probably less than 20 in the United States.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Charlie's talked a lot about the opportunities that women have in our industry. What's caused you to see that where you've seen an opportunity there? And then I would just love to get your feedback on his thought process.
My opinion of it is that women just in general have a different way of doing business. Okay.
Completely.
And they have a more nurturing way about them. Men have this like, I'm going to sell it to you. Okay. And that has its place in the world, but it also turns so many people off. I don't like being sold. And I'm really cognizant of that. And women in general just have this softer approach to it. You don't feel like they're just like jamming a product down your throat that you want them to buy. And they're underserved. And I say that not just like a hot word, but there's just in insurance, it's a 58-year-old white man is what you're going to find. Right. Oh, yeah. So you guys come into it and your business is very different than the other wholesalers that we've dealt with who are men. Yeah. It's just, you can really tangibly feel it. So, and then on your end, what do you see?
Yeah. So when I got started in this business, and still to this day, I would say, even though there's more women joining, it is male dominant.
Completely.
Go to any conference and it's all men around me, which plays to a huge advantage being a woman, because I found at a young age when I got into this business in my 20s that men want to talk to women. As sexist as that sounds, it's true.
Sure.
They are drawn to another woman in the room. They don't want to talk to another man. It's more fun to sit at the bar with another woman, right? And so that's where I found a lot of success, is at conferences and just talking to people, because I had the upper hand in the room, right? And just networking. And so then once you can actually prove to them that you have a brain and you know what you're talking about, right?
You have to say
it's even more intriguing to
Yeah.
them. So as bad as that sounds, it's true. I just used it to my advantage.
I think that's a very natural way to see it.
For sure.
As far as other strengths that women have, I mean, you can even point your own strengths out.
So we're multitaskers.
Yeah.
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
Because men are focused, right? Eye on the prize, get the sale, right? Close the deal.
Yeah.
They're always thinking of the next sale. They're not thinking of like nurturing the relationship or, seeing the case through or whatnot. And so I feel like, again, women have an upper hand in this business because there's so many different facets in the sense of when you're, you make the sale, then you've got to go through underwriting. You've got to schedule this. You've got to do that. You've got to now do enforced policy services. I think women have a really great touch on all of those.
You guys do it better than anyone else we've worked with. And we've just seen it. And I am the typical male. Like I sell it and then I'm like, Della, I need you to run the rest of it. I just don't have the capacity to sit there and go, okay, now I need to get other paperwork from you and run this by another underwriter or whatever it is. I'm just not built that way. Absolutely. So we always talk about an entrepreneurial strength is knowing what you are and what you aren't and playing to the strength. Absolutely. So you guys do that well. I feel like we do it well, and we've been able to complement each other. Fantastic. And it's been a really great relationship. And I mean, everyone should use you guys, but at the same time, we don't, because we're greedy.
It's true. We don't want you overloaded because we want you, focused.
I'll just hire more people.
Hire more people. I love it. I love it.
Well, I would say even our experiences with your agency from the get-go, even walking into your offices, the environment is just different. It's a beautiful office space. It's well designed.
Thank you.
You can tell that that you've put in a lot of work there, know, with your team.
A lot of thoughtfulness.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just from colors and all the glass and the natural light and everything that's in there, we love going out there. We're out there probably once a month at this point, sometimes twice a month for different,
breakfast is good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I think, you do that too. You're like, come on in, we'll feed you. And then, you can sit through a training session and things like that. But ultimately it gives you a pulse, I think, on us and on our business ongoing, which is a huge testament to you guys and what you do well.
Yeah. It has always been extremely important for me to have the office as a place where people could go to and be happy and escape like the realities of the world. So Watermark, I call, is my first child.
Sure.
I started the company before I had any of my 3 children.
Okay.
And so I kind of treat it as my first child too, to some degree. But once I did start having children, right, it was such a nice reprieve to go to each day. And I tried to make it feel that way for all of my employees as well. It's like, hey, let's all come together as a family. Like, we all choose to work with each other every single day. Yeah. Let's make it the most comfortable, the best environment, those types of things. So
these are also things that you're talking about that just men don't have that mindset. It's like, you get in, you work, you crank.
Work.
And by the way, I'm that way. So he has to be the HR middle person, because otherwise I'd be like, everyone needs to have their foot flat on the gas pedal. Yeah. Otherwise I'm not happy. Right. So we have balance in that, but you just have that feel where it's like, it's a little bit more calming. It's not as like, hey, I'm going to wring your neck if you're not doing what I'm asking. And I think that's a great thing, honestly.
Well, we had our air conditioner went out in our building yesterday. Ooh. And Santa Clarita, it's 115 degrees outside right now. And our air conditioner went out yesterday, and you could just see it on his face that he was like, people are going to have to go work from home, which means they're going to be less efficient, which means
all of the things drive me nuts.
And
because the way I am, I was like, Daniel, you have to go talk to the landlord because I am the wrong guy for this job right now. So it's too funny.
And to play into that a little bit more, during COVID, all of the employees chose to come back into the office every day, which was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it just showed
it's
exactly.
a testament to you and what you guys do well as a team, for sure.
Yeah. I think we've talked about a lot of the positives. You kind of mentioned the negative of being a female, that you almost have to tell people or show people you have a brain, which is a really tough thing to like even have to say. What are some other challenges that you see just being a female owner in the insurance business?
Well, first, being a young female was probably the toughest. My age definitely was a huge deterrent for men. When I was networking, it was, how old are you? You're in your 20s, you know nothing. Like, have you even bought your first home yet? Do you even know what a mortgage is? Those types of things, right?
Oh, okay.
So there were many obstacles to overcome. Thankfully, I had my business partner at the time, Neil, to kind of like add some age to to us. However, gosh, trying to think.
You were 25, right? When you basically started it. So I started insurance at 22. Okay. I was married at that point already. And I had to show in my binder that I was married. I'd walk in looking like a fetus.
No way.
But I'd have my binder with my wife there, and they would almost go, oh, maybe he's older than he looks, right? But my age was a tough deal. On top of being a female, I can see how that was a struggle. Yeah.
And then having kids, right? That pulls you away as well from your job duties as well. So that was another obstacle to overcome. Thankfully, I mean, I think we do such a great job for our clients that they just know, like, hey, if I've got to take off early and bring a kid to the doctor, or I have a sick kid at home, or I need to be at my son's football game, whatever the case is, that they're so understanding at this point in time.
Of course.
But it was an obstacle, right, when I was pregnant and giving birth and those types of things, to be out of the office. But yeah.
Do you think insurance afforded you? Because I have an opinion of insurance that it's probably the best kept secret. It's because it has such a negative connotation that it is a best kept secret for people who are doing it well. And honestly and ethically, I think is another part of that.
Yep.
Do you feel like, though, if you were in like a corporate banking job, do you feel like you could have done the kids thing the way you did with an insurance? It's impossible, right?
Heck no.
Yeah. Insurance has so much flexibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. Complete luxury of making my own schedule, right? I earn as much as I want to earn, right? It's all based on my schedule and how motivated I am to get out. And if I know I've got 3 hours in a day because I'm going to take the rest of the day off to either travel or go be with my kids or my husband, I know I've got 3 hours to grind. And so I think that's the beauty of our industry,
it's the beauty
right?
of it. I do kids time, put them to bed, and then I'll sit there on my laptop and work. I can still do my job after it. It's not like it's 9 to 5, and I can still make all the money I've been making just with the effort for me. So, and I used to work a 4-day work week for 5 or 6 years. I golfed every Friday. Yeah. And people were like, oh, he's not working enough. I was working every night to make sure I was got everything taken care of. So
some of my best years have been when I've traveled the most, actually. And it's just being out and about, meeting new people, right?
Yeah. And you're being, exactly right.
We talked about that last time too. The amount of deals that I've closed on vacation, like looking over a river or, at Disney World or whatever.
Absolutely.
It's like, those are opportunities that are available to us in our industry.
I want my producers to be selling insurance in Florence, Italy. Like, that to me is my dream for myself and for other people. I want to create that atmosphere.
It's a really healthy work-life balance. I think that's so important.
Insurance is really stressful for small amounts of time, really small increments. The rest of it is really flexible. And I think that's also, for me, and you can attest to it, because I've had this opinion, but I think more women need to be in it. And I don't think they see it as this, like, maybe dream that could be fulfilled in the space. But like, if you want to have a family and you want to have the opportunity to make a lot of money and you want to have the flexibility, it provides all of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
And I just don't think enough people see it.
Well, and we interviewed a young lady just a few weeks ago that we felt, we still feel like would do a really great job as a broker. And we were talking to her just about the fact that, her and her husband have talked about family planning in the future. And we said, look, if
it doesn't phase us,
it doesn't phase us at all. And if this is, if you want to build up a book of clientele that you want to continue to manage from home for a period of time or whatever that looks like for you, like, we're open to that discussion.
Right. I think a huge deterrent from women, especially young women getting into the business, is that there's not a steady income, right? It's all commission driven. And for young women, it's tough because, you get out of college, you graduate, and you're expecting to make this like healthy income or salary, right? And when someone tells you, oh no, we're going to hire you for commission only, that's a huge deterrent, right? Yeah. I took advantage of that though. I leaned on my husband's income to really carry us during that time. And I took the commission only job and thought, you know what, I'm just going to take this time and really grind now where I'm making no money, and it will pay off later because I believe in myself. I know it's going to happen.
I did the same thing. So my wife was my sugar mama, and it was fantastic. I love that. Oh my gosh, I loved it. But she was doing TV editing and making enough money to where I was like, I don't need to find a comfortable job. I need to find one that has a lot of upside.
Yeah.
So the insurance game was perfect for that. So you're talking about the commission thing. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Go for it. No.
Okay, we haven't talked about this, by the way. But,
no, we haven't.
So in general, and I'm going to make it, try not to be harsh, but I'm also going to be a little harsh. I see a lot of stuff on social media. It's these bullpens of guys and some females who are straight commission right away, and they're rah-rahing each other up, and they're selling life insurance to people. They're talking not about what's good for the client, but what's good for them. The commission.
Yeah.
And I think the life insurance commission structure incentivizes
is all wrong. It does.
Yeah, it incentivizes poor, sharky behavior.
It does.
And you know this from being an owner, right? You incentivize the things you want. So when insurance companies say, hey, I'll pay you this much commission up front,
it's hard to look the other way.
You have to understand human nature to say, like, they're going to sell a product no matter if it's good for the client or not.
Right.
It matters what's good for the pocketbook. And it's just such a negative thing that needs to get flipped. I think it needs to go like P&C, where you're creating a cash flow business and it's renewable income, and like some sort of formula that says you get paid this much percentage every year on the policy.
Absolutely.
Just like everything else. Because if you're like, hey, I'm going to make 10 grand on one sale, it's different than I'm going to make $1,000 over 10 years or $2,000 over 5.
Correct.
Right. And that incentivizes different behavior on top of that, different buying patterns on top of that.
Yeah.
So
you said it perfectly.
Okay, well that's great because I've really
exactly what I was going to say.
Okay, well then shoot, that's over. So the other part, the commission thing, right? We've always talked about there's a need for a salary up front that doesn't need to get paid back, even if you're going to go straight commission, some sort of weaning process. Because if you tell them, hey, go straight out the gate, straight commission, you're bound to get them to say something they're not supposed to just to get a sale. Of
course. They're going to sell whatever has the highest comp, right, that they can pay their bills with. And they're not going to be looking at what's best for the client's financial picture. So
20 hours and a test. That's it.
It's not a lot.
What do you think should be done to, one, make the barrier to entry more difficult? Because I think it needs to be harder to get into the insurance game in general.
It does. It should be like studying for like your Series 7, right? Like the FINRA test and whatnot. Yeah. I think it's really important to make the barrier of entry harder, more stringent. And then also, I truly believe that the insurance companies really need to wrap their heads around the commission structure. They need to think it all backwards.
I agree.
They're sick of seeing all of these bad insurance policies being written, right?
Yeah.
But they're creating the problem.
They're incentivizing.
Yeah, they're motivating that behavior.
And even furthermore, their sales reps, right, sometimes are even pushing that even along. We've got to make sales goals. We've got to do this. Any big IULs you're going to be selling, right? And it's giving a really horrible rap to the industry as a whole. And so it's really unfortunate.
The honest ethical becomes difficult, and we talk about it, and it's really hard to say it because we illustrate so different, and you guys do it too, where it's like you're really conservative, and then you'll go to someone else and they're illustrating home runs, if not like grand slams, and you're like, you're gonna miss the ball 99% of the time in some of those ways, but it looks way better than what we're illustrating.
Phenomenal.
So those people are either gonna get sued or that client's gonna be really unhappy, but that takes years to develop, and that person may not even be in the business because of the nature of the turn in insurance.
You see that happen.
So it's a really poor setup, and we see on Instagram all these guys in a bullpen, they're roided out.
It's boiler room.
Guys,
it's boiler room. Yeah,
and you're like, all those clients are gonna get screwed.
Yeah.
If not most of them. And so that's the part for us where we want to be honest, ethical businessmen who are saying, hey, we're going to employ people on top of it who line up with our values. They're not going to be wondering where their next meal's coming from. Because I mean, that's a real thing that you have to worry about.
Right.
You're incentivizing them to go, I need to sell.
Yeah.
Which you do, but you need to do it in the right way.
Yeah. And I think education is the top priority there, right?
Priority.
Is making sure that you're dumping all your time, resources, and energy into educating your employees, in educating the clients, right? And always putting them first and making sure that they truly understand what they're purchasing and why it fits into their financial picture versus someone else's, right? Making sure that they truly understand all of that. So when we handle a sale, right? If you came to us with one of your clients and you're like, hey, help us on this case.
Right.
We'd make sure, okay, let's understand you guys are handling their finances. Okay, this is what they're doing. This is what their financial picture looks like. Great. Now let's see how we can back into what strategy works best for them, right? And now we're going to educate that client on why that strategy fits within their financial portfolio and why it's benefiting them, right? And then ultimately we'll pick the perfect product to go behind that and back it.
Sure.
We love that. And we had a conversation with David Baldwin, and he was competing on a premium finance deal with somebody. And he just asked a simple question to I think it was another attorney or a CPA or somebody. He was like, how much are you making on that deal? Because he started to sniff out that I don't think this is good for the client. I just think it's good for the agent who's trying to sell this other product. And sure enough, it was almost double what you guys were making on the deal. And plain and simple, you could see that like the illustration was better. The commission was bigger, but I think he told us year 15 or 20, it was not even close to what you guys had because it just was out of whack, and they were trying to make more money on their end. And so we've seen that that's a really big part of the business that gets overlooked, is that like, can you be honest and ethical? Yeah.
Every time I hire someone, we need to make sure that you can go to bed every night being able to sleep with a clear conscience. Like, you need to make sure that in a year or two from now, we're not waking up with a lawsuit at our door, right?
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we're taking care of the clients. Like, we want our clients and our friendships and our agencies, right, and our relationships around for the long haul. This is not a short-term, like, turn and burn type shop. So
I think another part that you guys have the advantage of that we talk about is that I don't just want to sell life insurance to somebody. We do PNC, we do personal, we have all these lines. So I'm more concerned about the holistic picture and not just one line. If you have a life-only license, I guarantee you're going to act different than I do. So, and that's because we have other lines. You guys sell other things, right? So not only is it life insurance, but explain what else Watermark does.
So life insurance, long-term care, disability insurance, and annuities. And then we're actually just about to break ground into the Medicare supplement space as well. So we have a ton of agents that are already selling it. And if they're doing all of their life, long-term care, annuity,
it makes perfect sense.
Why not do their Medicare with us as well? So
that's great. And so again, that's that holistic picture of we're looking for more than just one thing. We're not just trying to be sharky on the one line and make as much as possible on that line of business.
Exactly.
How do you structure when people come in to work for you? Do you pay them a salary with a bonus structure? Like, how does that look?
So I typically will start them on a draw. So we're paying them X amount of thousands of dollars a month, right? And then when they start closing business, either the whole draw or a portion of that draw is now payable back to us when they close business based off their commission.
Does that go for 6 months, a year? How long do you guys play that out?
Some people 3 months. If I know they're coming in with experience and they're just making, an agency shift, right?
Yeah.
Or if they have no experience, it's typically 6 to 8 months actually. So
yeah, I mean, that's fair. At least they have something to live on.
Exactly. It gives them something, it feeds their family, it pays their mortgage each month, but then it also keeps them hungry and knowing that, hey, you gotta go out there and.
Yeah, we do something similar. We don't have a draw, but we actually cut salary every quarter.
Oh,
so we basically say, hey, we know you need this, but every quarter we just cut it. So in a year's time, it's over, but you have to pay us anything back. But you need to be able to like
Supplement
chop.
that,
You need to be able to go.
Yeah.
So that way it doesn't, again, incentivize negative behavior, which is what you guys are doing too with the draw.
Right.
So
Exactly.
really love that.
It aligns well too with the way that we get paid, because the compensation on PNC is a little bit different than compensation
Much
on
more long-term.
Yep. Yeah. So PNC is a long burn.
Slow and steady,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. Slow
Which
and
is
steady,
nice.
long burn.
Yeah.
And so the tail works to where, as we cut quarterly, then it fills in with renewals and things like that, where a bulk of life insurance commission is more on the front
It's
end.
all up front.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so it's a little bit easier. I remember I was telling the old company that I used to work for I was a captive agent for them, and a friend who was in the broker space, he was like, well, if you need to make an additional $5,000 a month, he's like, you can do that with X amount of life insurance sales. But my compensation at life insurance with that captive company was so low compared to what his was as a broker, that when I told him my life insurance commissions, he was shocked by it. Yeah, shocked by it.
Most people are.
Yeah, because he was like, if I need to make an extra $5,000 a month, well, then I just know, I need to work through my life insurance prospects and work through those lists in order to sell those things to compensate for that income. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work that way for me in my current, captive structure.
Right. Have you guys come across where a client of yours has said, hey, how much are you making on this deal?
That's happened a couple times. It doesn't really phase me that much. We're quoting things with minimums, right? We're not trying to like up the death benefit like crazy so we can make more commission.
Right.
So if they're asking me, they're asking the other guy, and my number is probably going to be lower. So, and I'm not concerned about it. Again, for me, I'm not only concerned about the life deal. I'm concerned about all of it. So I don't mind telling people.
Have you had that conversation?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even clients will say like, well, I'll only do the deal with you if you give me some of the money back. And it's like, no, that's not how this works.
It does not work like that.
Yeah,
So sorry.
the laborer is due his wages.
Exactly. This is like a 2 to 3 month ordeal, right? We're going to go through underwriting, and then I've got this policy on the books for the rest of your life. So I've got to make sure we're managing it.
We see that on the PNC side. People want a commission cut back. I'm like,
I
hey,
heard that's
we
a
did a
big
good
thing,
job.
right? Yeah.
You should pay for it.
Exactly.
We had a podcast with an investment advisor, Stephen Johns, and we talked about how a lot of people want to talk about retirement and nobody wants to talk about dying. That seems to be a hurdle for our industry.
Yes.
What have you run into in that regards, and how do you help people think through that?
The long and short is it's inevitable. One thing that's guaranteed in life,
100%.
we are all dying at some point in time, right?
Yeah.
And it's, what legacy are you going to leave behind for your loved ones? How much do you love them,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
How do you want to be remembered?
Yeah.
So it's a really difficult conversation. Obviously, you've got to handle it with kid gloves, but it is definitely something that needs to be talked about. And if you don't, your family ends up in a super unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
And why would you want to do that to your loved ones, right?
Well, one of the questions that we sent your direction was like, we see people crowdsource when somebody passes away without proper life insurance protection in place. And like you said, there is an inevitable situation for everybody. Have you seen, crowdsourcing for life insurance? And what does that do to you mentally, thinking about your profession and what you do for a living?
Well, first I want to start with, I think that when something incredibly unfortunate happens, when someone passes away unexpectedly, the fact that people actually rally and are willing and are so selfless to like give money is absolutely incredible. But that's not guaranteed by any means. And so in my opinion, it's, again, we know we're going to die one day. So let's guarantee that our kids and our families and our husbands are taken care of, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And it hurts my heart when I see it, because even if you get 50, 100,000 from that crowdsourcing, I pay $90 a month for $3 million of term. My family's not,
it's crazy.
It's going to be really great. It's really inexpensive on that end, right? And my kids won't have to worry about what's going to happen.
Exactly.
My wife won't have to worry. And any money they do get from their community can be used for other things, or they can even give it back. I mean, they're just not going to be in the position to need.
Right.
And that hurts my heart when I see people I just need this to get by for a couple months until I go back to work.
Right. Yeah.
Right. That hurts. You don't really think about the end.
No.
And the consequences sometimes of what your family's going to have to go through.
So I actually have a really great story to share. Extremely unfortunate and very sad story, but a perfect example of this question specifically. A few years back at the Route 91 festival, one of my sister-in-law's best friends was unfortunately shot in the head and killed. And she had reached out to me 2 years prior, I think, for life insurance. And so she was a single mom at the time when she passed away. She had 3 children that she was the sole provider for.
Wow.
and no life insurance. And it was like my largest regret to this day in life that I didn't push more with her to like put it in her head, like, hey, this is absolutely a necessity. You have 3 children that you're providing for. What happens to them if you die unexpectedly? And when you're in your 20s, early 30s,
it's hard to think about it.
It's so hard to conceptualize that that's going to happen. But unfortunately, things happen, right? And so the long and short is people raised over, I think, $1.5 million for her children.
Wow. That's amazing.
And then unfortunately, someone got a hold of the money and didn't treat it right. They didn't, I don't even know how much the kids ended up with, but I know that it was used for other means. And so it's just really unfortunate. Yeah. It's a really sad story.
I think this is a good segue because for us, we do have a passion for insurance. I know it's really hard to find it in a sense. What got you to be passionate about it?
Honestly, it was just the flexibility, right? So again, going back to the days when I started in the financial industry and just at the hedge fund, is I was working crazy hours, right?
Of course.
Nights, weekends.
Of course.
You know, and I had no time to go date my husband, or, you know, my fiance at the time. Having a family was completely out of the picture. There was no way. How am I going to raise a family if I'm gone every weekend working nights, right? And so, I mean, that really played into a huge part of why I stuck in the insurance business is the flexibility of our schedules. And then obviously the pops of money you can make, right, as well. That's also a huge negative, though, as well, is because you've got to really understand how to budget your life, too, because sometimes you're only closing a deal or two in a month, and then other months you're closing 10 deals, right? So you really have to learn how to budget your money. That's very important in this industry. But what I'm really passionate about is just going back to my friend's unfortunate story, is just really helping families have security and knowing that no matter what, their children, their families, their loved ones are going to be cared for. So I have a true passion just for people and relationships. And I have like a gazillion friends because I could never have too many. Like, I just love it. And so it's funny because a lot of people will say, you know, when you go out and you're networking, Nicole, it's not even like you're selling. Like, you just, it's a natural way of doing it. And it's just because I love to meet new people. I love to hear their stories. Like, they always naturally will ask in return about mine. And so it's just so easy. I'm passionate about people. So, and then insurance just kind of plays a part in that. So
I've always talked about the different methods of selling. It doesn't have to be in your face sales, right? And so everyone has their place. You don't have to be this like salesman that people think of. And I think it's a bad thing on top of it in a lot of insurance scenarios. So
I agree.
It's not a t-shirt you're trying to sell. So it has to feel different, which is what you're talking about, the relationship part.
Exactly.
It's really important. Again, another segue, like Watermark, right now it's doing amazing. It's growing. I'm assuming you're going to need more people as we keep throwing stuff on the books and more agents work with you. What's the long-term vision, right? What's 10 years, 20 years from now?
Growth is always the goal.
It has to.
Always. It has to. So continuing to grow, but while we grow, be very mindful of growing pains. I have seen in the past, Watermark's past, that when we grow too fast, bad things happen, right? And so you have to take a very calculated move forward each time you grow, right? Baby steps almost. And then always be forward thinking, right? So where's the industry headed? This industry is archaic, unfortunately. And so I think there's so much opportunity right now, which really excites me about a lot. In the tech space, as you know, with my mark, we're really trying to be pioneers there. And then with Stream, forward thinking on premium financing, right? And just kind of seeing where this industry could be headed or where we think it's headed and taking calculated moves and risks. That
we do that in the PNC space. I am so trying to move the needle on the tech and what people are experiencing. Right. So when we saw it on your end, I was like, this is perfect.
That's how we found you. That's how we found you. It was the old general agency that we worked with. It was, send in the person's, name, date of birth, height, weight, if they're on any medications. On a napkin. Yeah. And, and then they'll send you back quoted information, and then and then you have to send back an application, and sometimes it was paper apps, and he was just looking at it when we were opening up the agency, and he was like, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Absolutely.
And then we found you guys through technology, and obviously we're very, very thankful for that.
Great. No, I'm glad. Yeah. So we had the idea of My Mark prior to COVID hitting. We had just started saving up to invest in this very expensive program that we've built. And so it would have been amazing if it was around during COVID. If I could have predicted the pandemic like a little bit sooner. But anyways, long and short is we're so excited to have it, that it's here and it's working seamlessly, and that agents are really excited about it. So
something I've seen even in the past year working with you guys is you seem to have these really I would say calculated hires. People like Tim, where it's like he does certain things very well. That's very niche, right? Because there's not a bunch of people doing premium finance that are doing it at a high level. He does it at a high level.
And the right way.
And you only amplify the sharkiness with the bigger commission. So I understand that, exploitative behavior on big commissions can be even worse.
Yeah.
Are you guys looking to continue that model of like finding experts in that field, or are you just trying to train people to be experts in that field?
Yeah, it's a delicate dance actually between trying to train someone and find people like Tim, right?
Sure.
It's difficult too. There's not too many people that just have this great knowledge of insurance, and those that do have either started their own companies, right? There's a few people on our radar right now, which I'm excited about. Hopefully they will come on over, but we definitely have taken the seat in, hey, let's just recruit really good people that are smart, quick-witted, right? That are easy to talk to, that people just are drawn to, right? And let's train them to learn how to educate others on life insurance.
Yeah, it's the Apple and Google mindset of like, let's hire around the competencies and the abilities, and then we'll create a job.
Exactly.
I almost don't want insurance people.
Right.
Honestly, I would rather not hire someone with experience, because I have to unwind, and some people, just the nature of them, you can't unwind them. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's unscrambling the eggs. It doesn't.
Right.
We just
it's so nice to like be able to build them the way you want to build them.
And again, because we're trying to be honest, ethical, do it the right way. If they're used to a different way, you're letting a fox into the hen house, and we do not want that.
Yeah, well said.
So most of the time, we're trying to train people. That's our model. But if you find the right person, it's easy. Are you guys thinking about acquisition for getting the right person?
We haven't looked at that quite yet.
But it's been on the mind. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, so I think for us, we've talked about acquisition is going to be a part of our game, because you said it, the people who are doing it well are usually in their own business.
Yes, there's a few agencies out there, and as they're, the CEOs of those companies are starting to age out, right? Because the life insurance industry is a much older demographic. Which is another thing we should talk about, is how there's a lack of young people getting into this industry.
My wife's grandfather passed away a number of years ago. And we were going through some of his old stuff, and he was a life insurance salesman for, I want to say, Northwestern Mutual.
Yeah.
And he's got all of these old like buttons and awards and things like that. And he was that guy with the hat and the briefcase, walking up to your front door in the 50s and 60s to talk to you about buying a $10,000 life insurance policy.
Yeah.
But it was like such an encouragement. Yeah, totally. And it was such an encouragement to me, because I was like, man, I'm making my living in this space, and here, like, he was doing this, decades ago. But yeah, we're seeing that older generation transitioning out. And not a whole lot of people coming to sort of fill the vacuum that that's being created.
So I think the view of insurance is part of it. Do you have an opinion on why else young people aren't joining? I think insurance does a really poor job marketing to those young people.
For sure. And I think because these big corporations such as Google, right, and Facebook, and you name it, the tech space, they're offering these crazy benefit packages, right? Their salaries might be low, oftentimes not. Yeah. But then they have these huge benefit packages on top of it, where life insurance agencies are, captive, like Northwestern Mutuals. I don't believe that they give like these crazy incentives on the benefits. And so I think there's that lack of draw to getting into the industry as well.
We think of tech as like, oh, they're just attracting people away with all these benefits. You should offer them.
Right.
You should be that. I don't know why people in insurance go, oh, it's too much. Based on what?
Yeah, exactly.
You should be able to give good health benefits, good vacation. People should be able to work from Bali if they want to, if they're doing a good job. They should be afforded those same things if they're killing it. So I think the industry looks
I may not pay for 70% of your health insurance, but you can work from Bali all next month if you'd like.
I just don't see, and insurance and agencies and even I would say the actual carriers, they don't do a good job of that. Like, you sit at a desk, you do the job. I think that's a really poor way of getting people in the door.
Agreed.
So that has to change completely. We're trying to do it on our end. There's, in general, good ways of doing business and bad ways of doing business. What do you see the character traits of someone who's doing it well in the life insurance, long-term care, whatever that space is? What are those things that people need to work on, or just, hey, if I have that skill, this is perfect for you?
Education, first and foremost. Individuals who are committed to learning and always having an open mind, right? Because our industry is forever going to keep changing with tax code, you name it, legislation, right? And so if you are open to change and you're agile and you're a quick starter, right? In the sense of, I need to become an expert at this. I need to know more about this. I need to segue. You need to be able to zig and zag in this industry really well, because there's always a new law coming into play, right? And it changes your whole business, right? When the estate exemption went up, it killed a ton of our cases, right? And it's like all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, I don't need the insurance anymore for the estate tax. So you've got to become really creative and figure out, okay, well, how are we going to market to this segment of people? Or, how do we create new relationships with people who are interested in these topics, right? Yeah. And so always just having that open mind and being willing to learn new tricks of the trade, right? And people who are just always trying to self-better themselves as well. Those are the type of people we're looking for.
I love that. Yeah, when we started learning about just IUL in depth and whole life, I remember going on a YouTube just rabbit hole and being stuck in it. But I get
2 o'clock in the morning. It's 2 a.m. My phone is buzzing with like, dude, look at this reel. Check out this clip. Look at this. You gotta see this.
Yeah. And I get a little obsessive, and whether it's a good or bad thing, sometimes it works out to my detriment because I don't sleep much because my mind won't shut it off. But the other is that, because I want to be so good at something, I get obsessive, but I get good at it.
I love it.
And it's a really important thing that people have to be cognizant of. If you want to do it well, you should be a little obsessive.
Absolutely. And be the expert in the room, right?
Yeah, that's what I want to be. I want to be the one who's people are asking the questions, right? Like that's where you should aspire to be.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great point.
Can I ask just how you guys came up with the name Watermark?
Yeah.
Where did it come from?
A lot of people ask us this question, which I love. I did not want to be the Rex Churchill insurance agency.
Oh, yeah. Right? We had the same issue.
Very boring. So was trying to become creative. My favorite color is blue.
Okay.
Follow me on this rabbit hole journey, okay? Right. And I was thinking, I love water, right? Blue's a very calming color. When I'm thinking about logos, what do I want it to look like? This, that. And a watermark is a form of security, right?
Sure.
On a document. And so, as you know, with insurance, every policy is watermarked with the insurance carrier's logo and name. And so we came up with Watermark Insurance.
It's brilliant.
Thanks.
How long did it take to go from that concept to actually going, oh, that's it? Was it like a day or did it take months?
No, it was actually like a week. It wasn't that long.
Okay.
So we had like innovative was one, creative. I was trying to play into that. And then I was like, no, I think we should just go something completely like different from what's out there right now.
Well, in your platform, the MyMark platform, I think the website is Leave My Mark, right?
It is.
Which is another brilliant marketing concept because that's what life insurance does. I mean, it leaves a legacy of wealth for your family. And so I've loved everything about it.
Thank you. It's been fun with all these spin-off companies, right? MyMark, Stream, right? They all play into the Watermark name.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I did not think of that 12 years ago, right?
Sure. It's like it worked out perfect. Yeah. I saw. Did you pick up golfing recently?
No, I just tried it for the first time.
Got it. So you did. You picked it up. Well, how did it go?
I totally picked it up. Great. We lost.
Well, that's a big part of the insurance world. Golf is hard.
Oh, wow.
Golf is really hard.
I'm a tennis player, so.
Okay. Well, then you should be able to figure it out.
No, it's totally different
swing.
Get
out. It's not. It's different swing, but it has the same characteristics for hand-eye.
It does. Yes, it does.
Are you going to keep at it, or are you over it?
You know what? I've always said, that's actually a great point to bring up, is women in this business, if they could learn how to golf, you would close so much business on the golf course. Because if you think about it, it's all men on the golf course.
It's exactly
And where do all men close deals? On the golf course.
My dad's number one reason for getting me golf lessons when I was 12 is he told me that the biggest deals in America are closed on the golf course.
Okay,
they are.
So secret, and I selfishly want women golfers on my scramble teams.
Okay.
Their tees are way farther forward. So if they hit it well and they play well, they're way farther forward. So whenever I have played with a woman, we've won those tournaments. Because if they're good. They can just hit it out there, and they will always out hit the men because they're way out in front of us.
So my balls stay nice and low and flat. They go far, but they don't pop up in the air. So I've learned I'm actually better at what's that called, putting, the putting game.
Sure.
I'm a good putter.
So another thing that I've wanted to use as we hire more and more, I can't remember if it was Microsoft, but there was a high up executive who would take people who he was interviewing to golf and then to lunch.
Interesting.
He would see how they played the game.
Okay.
Are you cheating? Are you being honest with yourself and others, right? When no one's
like
looking.
that.
He always had their eye on him. And then he would take him to lunch to see how he treated the wait staff. And he would purposefully go to the same table,
I love that.
same waiter, and the waiter would make their order wrong.
Okay.
And the whole purpose was to see what kind of person are you? How do you treat other people? And I always thought that's a fascinating thing. But golf really is a little microcosm of life, I like to think. So, I really love it. So when I saw the picture of you golfing, I was like, no way. So that's really cool. I hope you keep at it. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
And I think I closed a deal on that little golf excursion. So yeah.
I've done a lot of golf with clients. It's a really good way to get time with people.
It really is.
Well, and if anything,
uninterrupted.
it deepens relationships as well. Like even if a product sale doesn't come out of it,
you can't talk business for 4 hours.
Yeah,
no, you cannot.
So it has to be personal, kids, family, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and then they know that too, that you're not like a square that just sells this.
You're a real person. You have personality, right?
As far as technology, you kind of talked about that. I want to go back to it. Do you guys have, so Stream is a new thing that you guys just kind of rolled out.
Right.
It's the premium finance, which I think we're going to talk more with Tim, but where did that stem from? Because premium finance has been established, but to move the needle, I would say downward in income and net worth, like, did you guys come up with that? Or is that something that's kind of just cutting edge that other people are doing?
I mean, it definitely exists out in the marketplace today, but we just felt that it's an underserved community, right? That, hey, if you can mortgage your home, right, everyone can do that.
Leverage is a big part of life.
It's available to most people, right? So why not make premium finance of life insurance available to most people as well? And so make it affordable. It just makes more sense. It's the smarter way of purchasing life insurance, right? Yeah. And so making it available to what we like to call the Henrys, the high earners, not rich yet. So people who, take me back in my late 20s, early 30s, right, that were making great annual incomes, but I had no net worth at the time, right? I barely owned the house. So, if I was able to finance my life insurance policy at that point in time, I wouldn't have bought term, right? I would have taken the whole life or the indexed universal life policy and I don't want to say wasted that money towards a term policy, but I knew back in my late 20s that I needed a life insurance policy for the rest of my life, that it wasn't going to term out just after 30 years, right? And so to make that available to the greater general public is really exciting to us. And so we feel like it's going to really take off and be a game changer for our industry.
I think conceptually too, a lot of people think as term insurance is like a liability. It's just a cost on their balance sheet.
Exactly.
Whereas when you think of IUL and then you think of premium finance, you're thinking of it, how is it a tool for me instead of just a cost on the balance sheet.
Exactly.
So I think that for people as it goes further and further down is going to have to force them to think about it different, which I think is fascinating.
And how is my money making money for me while I sleep too, right? So it's work smarter.
Yeah, and we've done a deep dive on the infinite banking concept too, and just like imagine making money twice on the same money that's already sitting there. It's a no-brainer.
Yes.
And again, sharky behavior on some of that stuff, but if you're setting people up properly,
that's in any industry though.
Insurance really gets it bad.
I know. They do. They do. Yeah.
Any other innovative products that you guys are kind of working on, or what is the next building block that you're really trying to roll out at Watermark?
If I could figure out a way to underwrite someone before showing them an insurance quote, that's like my $1 trillion idea.
Do you think quoting first and then something happening in their screens, unraveling it, is that a big issue that you guys see?
So a lot of the times with MyMark, right, people will go through the quoting phase and then they'll apply because they're like, this looks great, right?
Yeah, it's a great rate.
Yep, I think I'm preferred.
Yeah.
And then there's something in their medical records that says they're not, right? And they're either declined or the pricing jumps way up. And so how do we mitigate that, right? Yeah. How do we stop people from seeing these, I don't want to call them fake quotes. They're not fake, right? But them retuning their brains to think, okay, I'm really at this cost point, not this price. Yeah. So if we could figure out a way when I log into MyMark or if I go onto the website and all of the data sources of the world are already pulled into my
Sure.
computer. So when I say I went 20-year term for $1 million, it already knows my underwriting class. That's the
That's
big
the future, you think?
That's the future.
I think it's possible.
It's just who has the funds to create it. That's expensive.
Yeah.
One of my old executives at the captive agency I used to work at, he would say if somebody came in and they were table rated or rated substandard, he would call the client and he's like, you just have to be bold with it. And he said, I would look at them and I would say, hey, I got great news. We were able to secure your life insurance policy and it's going to be more expensive than we thought. And he's like, inevitably, long pause on the other line, and then he would say,
but hey,
given your medical history, I didn't think that we were going to be able to underwrite this at all.
I love it.
And so helping people understand that medical history is a huge part of it, if not 99% of it.
Right.
So their prescription drug profiles, their current health, all of those things, family medical history. And so sometimes people are just in bad positions where it's going to cost more. I'm an asthmatic. And I pay a little bit more for my insurance annually because I've had asthma attacks and been hospitalized for it and things like that. That's part of my life.
It is.
And also part of what could take my life. Right. And so I need to protect my family against that. Yeah. And
my brother had a big medical episode and, hospital for a bunch of days. Could have been really bad. They ended up having to continue treatment, and then he was on medication for the rest of his life for those things. And, he had some term, but he was 24 when it happened. And now he's like, I would almost pay the extra. Right. Because he understands that eventually at some point in his life, that is probably what's going to take him. So he's like, I would pay it. Right. It's almost an inverse relationship, but it's expensive because it's going to take you. So, it's a funny balance, but,
and I love how life insurance now, its only use is not for the day you die, right? Yeah. Now there's all these really cool living benefits right now.
Living benefits are great.
That I think are so exciting to be sharing with the general public that don't understand that life insurance is now, you can use it while you're alive, not just when you die. So I think that's really
exciting. A hurdle that I ran into a lot with life insurance is people would, and I think that whole life sort of tackles this problem, is that people will buy a term policy, and then when you ask them, how much life insurance do you have? They'll say, I have a 20-year term. And they won't think about the fact that they purchased it 7 or 8 years ago.
Exactly.
So you'll look at a policy and you'll say, well, you actually have a 9-year term. And they'll say, well, no, it's a 20-year term.
It was
the day that you bought it. But whole life and universal life tackle that problem because it's going to be good indefinitely.
Right.
I love that. Well, Nicole, I think this has been a really good podcast. We're really happy that you decided to come on.
No, thank you for coming.
We're going to have Tim on the next one. We're really excited for that. You got a lot of good people at Watermark.
Thank you.
I hope you keep hiring more good people because they help us a ton. Yeah. And we're just really grateful for you being here. And we just wanted to wrap up the episode on the Risky Assets podcast. Hope you enjoyed and look out for the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.